went too far. It's like, don't touch the birds. Don't touch those birds that have because
in a different ways, it is still very similar how we set them up and so on. Because yeah, we want to give the birds, like I said earlier too, every opportunity to show what they got, and especially in the one loft race too. You know, we actually want to take better care of those than our own, because people, you know, are paying to have us look after these pigeons and want to give them every opportunity. And as Linda will tell you, we stress 100 times more about the one loft pigeons than our own.
This year, I breed everything.
When we started, it was, you know, it wouldn't make it really hard, but for sure, you don't even want to lose one pigeon. You know,
I mean, if you get these birds in condition,
you really try hard, and that's why I say it's important that people send birds in good condition.
hear
You
it all
would
the
not
time.
believe some of the birds have been sent in and what kind of condition they're in. This is terrible. And I guess people expect us to, you know, the one lot race. Well, the one lot race, man, not just us, but others, you know, as well, that I've talked to many different guys who do one lot races, and they say all the same thing.
I'm telling you,
And they kind of
once you
expect
figure that part out,
miracles, I
it's not
guess,
that
with birds like
bad. That's
that.
once you figure
But
it out.
it may not, they don't even realize some of them that, you know, that's what's going on. But you feel obligated to try your very best, because yeah, they pay the bird's fee and et cetera. But that's why it's also important that you have sick days and so on, and when birds come in, have separate to make sure that everything is as, you know, healthy as possible, because if you introduce problems into your flock, it really snowballs. So that's why, like when I, you know, they asked me for the CU newsletter, for instance, to write something a little bit on what might be a good way to send birds to a one-lot race, and I think it's important that people send them as good as possible condition. I know you mentioned you don't vaccinate, but I think in my opinion it's important that they do. You know, just even to help the immune system, because we found that this year that people that had vaccinated, that I knew for 100%, they had no problems at all with health. Now they did yours, but you know, if birds, like I said earlier, even in the things when they, you know, get exposed to the adeno, pigeons that go into it very healthy, they deal with it so much better. And but some other pigeons I knew guys hadn't vaccinated. We had definitely had some issues with that, and you know, and then it kind of snowballs, and it's many sleepless nights, and it's not a lot of fun. You know, first we've had two that people tell you, oh, yeah, I'll be vaccinated and this and that and all that, and then a month later you talk to them again, oh no, you know, we maybe the vaccine was outdated, so maybe that's what the problem was, and talk to them a few weeks later again, no, they actually didn't vaccinate because it was outdated. So, you know, as long as people, when you send them, and that's what I said earlier too, when you send birds to a one-lot race, tell the manager what you did. Whether you vaccinated or not, most don't care, but tell them what you did do. If you did, tell them. If you didn't, tell them. Because then they can make their own decisions on the management from there. But if they don't know, if you tell them, yeah, I vaccinated the pigeons, and you didn't, then that can be a problem.
What do you feed your birds after when they come back from the race, and then how long do you give them grit during the week before the races?
Give them part of what?
How long do you give them grit before the races?
Okay, when they come home, generally from a race, I really don't have much of anything for feed. Mostly just fresh water at first, and then I'll give them some light feed. But then at night, I give them, depending on how bad the race was, but a good general mix, or sometimes even a breeding mix. And then from Sunday on, first a few days, again, lighter mix. But at the end, at the day when they return, not the first hour or 2 hours, but after that, definitely as much as they want on a good mix, just to help them recuperate as fast as possible. Because the faster they recuperate, you know, the quicker you can get them back into good condition for the next week. Grit, we usually get pickstone on the day of return, and for some reason they go really crazy on it, and by the end of the week, I don't know, they don't touch it anymore. We give them a couple of different grit mixes that comes in pails, like we feed bears, unfortunately. But it's very similar to Verzelaga anyway. Both kinds are pretty, you know, very equal. And if you're familiar with Verzelaga, I believe it's the grits that we give is very similar as, I think it's called All-in-One.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. So that, and the pigeons really seem to like that, so they get that a few times a week. And I just put it on the floor, and I don't actually clean it up unless, you know, it's wet or something like that. But in the past, I would always take it away the last couple days before a race, thinking that, oh, if they eat grit and stuff, they would, you know, be too heavy or whatever. But I do find that if pigeons will eat a lot of grit at the end of the week, then they're not ready anyway. You might as well not send them. Because then there's something wrong with their digestive system if they're still needing a lot of grit at that stage.
What do you use for your fats? I'm sorry, maybe there.
No, go ahead.
What do you use for your fats to feed the pigeons to put fat in them? Like peanuts, sunflower, what?
Yeah, there's a few mixes that have things. The fats, flaxseed, canola or rapeseed, peeled sunflower seeds, roasted soybean, they all carry a lot of fats. A little bit of safflower is okay. I don't, my pigeons don't seem to like my safflower, and I don't really like it because then you get it, if you get into the omega 3, 6, and 9 scenario, safflower has a very bad ratio from the 3 to the 6. It's 1 to 724 or 740, I think it is. And then if you look at flaxseed, it's only a 1 to 3.
How about peanuts? Do you mess with Spanish?
Yeah, actually what we do with peanuts, not feed them as straight. Now this is for our own birds, but what we do is, and that's something I picked up in Holland, is we use a, what do you call that? What is it? No, it's not a
Process.
yeah, food processor.
A processor.
And we dump the thing, mix them up, and then what we do is put cheese on it.
Mozzarella.
Well, it doesn't matter. Any cheese.
Pizza.
And then we put some protein powder. You know, any, like in the past I got some of the pigeon protein powder from Europe, but I just use what you can buy in a health food store, protein powder on there. And the Bioflorum, the prebiotic, and I may even put some of the like pigeon oils, energy oil or something like that on it, and then I mix all that together, put it in the fridge, let it dry, and then once that is cooled off and dried, then I put it back in the food processor and grind it up, and that's how I feed peanuts in there, and they get, you know, protein and everything with that as well.
In with your race mix or separate?
No, I feed that separate from the race mix because I keep it in the fridge while not feeding, because if it gets warm and soft, the pigeons don't like it and it becomes sticky and stuff. But they seem to really like that, and you get lots of fats on it that way and so on.
And is that like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
No, generally only the Wednesday evening and Thursday morning.
Okay.
And for the long races, also Thursday night. But it's mostly when you put the fats on that the pigeons store for flying. It's usually through the middle of the week anyway.
And what was that again? I'm sorry. What Wednesday?
Wednesday evening and Thursday, you know, morning and evening type thing. Yeah.
On the old bird racing, do you, like I fly natural, and I've always tried to raise at least one youngster out of the birds that mate, as long as the youngster's 28 days or so old before our first race. And then that way I get all the youngsters out of the old bird team. Do you think that, in your opinion, later in the season, because I fly natural the whole season, 10-day-old eggs, you know, it's a long time secret on the, especially on the long races. Do you feel that way, that helps motivate them or not?
You mean raising a young one?
Old birds.
Yeah, but raising a young one before the season. is what-
Yeah, raising it before the
Yeah, I think for old birds, not necessarily, but it doesn't hurt them either. I think it is important for yearlings to do so, just to become tighter to their nest box. Whether it's widowhood or natural, I think the biggest motivator for pigeons is their nest box, because that's their territory where they, I don't know what you call that, procreate, whatever. And in the animal life, I think if they have that, that is something that is very highly motivating, because, yeah, it's like you and I are home, so, you know, we're very protective of such a thing. So, I mean, we can rationalize with things, but definitely for yearlings that are new to a nest box and so on, if they raise a young one in there, they become much tighter to that nest box for sure. But it's very similar as in widowhood, and we do the same thing with yearling cocks. We always want them to raise a young one, definitely to become tighter to the nest box, and if they don't, they're certainly not, you know, as can defend the nest box as well as they should. But after they've raised a young one, 100 times better. And yeah, so I think it definitely helps. In older pigeons, might not be necessarily, even if, you know, a couple times have eggs is okay too. And as you said, the racing, yeah, 10, 12-day-old eggs for sure is one of the, certainly for hens. For cocks, they say three-day-old eggs, 5-day-old eggs, or a big young one. But hens seem to be best on 10, 12-day-old eggs for sure. But it's also a little bit different for each individual pigeon. You will find the odd one, of course, that do better on a 3-day-old young one or a 6-day-old young one as well. But if you go by averages, definitely 10 to 12-day eggs. But like I said, you know, same as with pigeons or whatever, there's always an exception. So, but if you go by averages, sure.
When you're training your young birds, do you train your sprint birds with your long distance birds to get top performance out, or do you separate them?
No, we pretty much train everything together. You know, we don't, the birds will have to make their own decisions, I find, in a lot of ways. Same as we don't really train in small groups. With the one-loss race we do, but that is more of a preventative thing. If something should happen, go wrong, that you don't lose the whole trailer full of pigeons. With our own birds, we always just toss the whole thing and they will have to sort them out themselves. It's the same as one of the questions earlier. You know, I think you maybe on the breaking point or something like that. I'm not sure how that works, if there is such a thing or not. I think the breaking point, to be honest, is the release point. And birds that are in the lead group, let's say, or are in front, they should be making the line. But, I mean, there can be certain geographical issues where birds have to take a certain line, whether it's, you know, a very large body of water. I still think to go over a lot of water, but or mountain passes, yeah, that's different. But if things are, you know, fairly flat and whatever, birds have to make their own line from the race point, from the release point, I should say. You know, anything, because same as with us, when we start flying, our own combine is maybe 90 to 100 miles wide. Our first race for us is 100 miles, for the guys shorter, maybe 70 miles. If you draw a line from the release point, you know, within 5-10 miles, there's already a couple miles separation between the two. So, yeah, again, the best thing is...
What I'm saying is I don't think it matters when you're in a race, because you've got all types of birds. But when you're training out of your own loft, I read several articles that you should turn the sprint birds up first so they have to perform rather than stay in a group.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean, and definitely, but I don't think we're specialized enough that we have a real long distance kind of bird and sprint birds as such anyway. In Europe, I can certainly see that, and it is true. In Europe, and I know plenty of guys there that fly, you know, short, middle distance, and then they have a team for the long distance or the 2-day long distance. And even when they fly them in races, you know, and you think if you train them hard and all that kind of stuff, they'd be fairly close. But it's almost always the same, is the first long distance pigeons are about a half an hour behind the sprint pigeons. And it's very interesting that that happens, and why it is exactly, you would think, you know, just a short race, they'll pick up some speed, or no, they just seem to go their own pace, and it definitely, and that's why they definitely have to separate it, you know. So there definitely seems to be a speed difference in that, and you know, and that has changed as well when they've started special.